Are you ready? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission of Florida 42nd Annual King Celebration. Tonight is event number 3 for us, and it is the Alumni Students Town Hall Symposium. This year's theme is Steadfast, Unmovable, Against All Odds. It's a conversation with former and current recipients of the Edna M. Hart Keep of the Dream Scholarship Award. Tonight, we're going to have some of our alumni students who are in person live here at Day Springs Missionary Baptist Church, and we have several that will be joining us from around the country. So we'll be bringing them in shortly. Tonight, we'll be talking from several subtopics of our theme this year. Some of the subtopics we're going to talk about is gun violence, career development, leadership training, overcoming adversity, and the importance of college. Those are some of the topics that we're going to talk about with our alumni students. At this time, we want to have some welcome and some greetings by the Vice President of the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission of Florida, the Honorable Diane McGraw.
And good evening to each of you. As he said, this is our 3rd program. I'm so excited to be here tonight and so happy to see you all, because anytime we're in the presence of young people, we want to hear from our young people, because one day we want them to fill these same shoes that our mayor here. We want them to be our leaders in the community. So I love the idea of us having this tonight where we can hear their thoughts, they answer the questions, and it gives us something to think about. And so I'm just so excited anytime I'm in the presence of young people and people who believe in what Dr. King believed in. So with that, we want to welcome each of you here tonight, and let's enjoy and support our young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Diane McGraw. I'm going to provide an opening prayer, so we ask that you please bow your heads at this time. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together, first of all, to recognize you and to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We ask now, God, that the activities that we're doing for King Celebration 26 be pleasing in your sight, and that not only that we recognize the man, but we address the problems that the man stood for. We bless these alumni students who thought it not robbery to come back and give back and participate in this town hall symposium. We ask that you bless them all across the country. Continue to keep them. Continue to give them the guidance, the needs, and the resources that they need to go forth into this world and make a difference. And Father, we ask that you bless Gainesville, Florida today with the tragedies that we're having in our community. We ask that you touch the families who lost loved ones. We ask that you be with the police officers that were injured in the line of duty, that you be with them and you be with their family. We ask that you bless our leaders, Mayor Harvey Ward and all the city commissioners who are going through these challenging times in this community. And Father, we'll be so mindful to give you all the honor and all the praise. And it is through your Son, Jesus Christ's name, we ask these prayers. Amen. Amen. We have about 43 students since 1989 that have received the prestigious Edna M. Hart Keep of the Dream Scholarship Award. Who is Edna Hart? Edna Hart is one of our founding board members of the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission in the early 80s. She was an educator here in the Alachua County public school system for over 40 years. She was serious about education. When we started this scholarship, she was the one who initiated it. And when she passed on, we thought it not robbery to name the scholarship in her honor. So that's why the Edna M. Hart Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award has been in existence since 1989. So some of you may be asking, well, where are they now? Where are all these students, these 42 students? Well, tonight we're going to show you where some of them are, and we got some blanks on some, but we're going to fill in those blanks hopefully between now and next year. But we want you to look at the students then and where they are now. So I'm going to ask our engineer if he would load up the Where Are They Now presentation. Well, it's always interesting to see the then and the now, especially when it's like 30 something years ago. It's always good to see. Isn't that right, Erica? Okay. If you all would like to come up, son, we would love to have you closer. We're a nice little family here. So if you want to come up closer, by all means, do feel if you want to come up and be a little closer. So now we're going to go to our panel, and we're going to have our panel to introduce themselves and to tell you a little bit about them. We're going to do our in-house panel first, and then we're going to go to our studio. So we're going to start over here with Malcolm Kiner. Malcolm?
Good evening, everyone. As he said, Malcolm Kiner. I think my picture was a little gray. I was the 1996 recipient, a whole 30 years ago. It's still, to this day, an honor to say I was lucky enough or fortunate enough to be a recipient of this esteemed award. But last year, like I said, Mrs. Edna Hart was my next-door neighbor, so maybe that contributed. But no, it's a pleasure to be here, and I will try to continue to help out and give back as long as I can.
The Caden Parker.
Hey everybody, my name is Caden Parker. I just graduated Santa Fe High School this past May, and I'm now at the University of Florida, majoring in biomedical engineering. Thank you. So excited to be here tonight, engage in some good conversation. So excited to get started.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justice Alexander. I am the 2024 Edna M. Hart recipient. Sorry, I'm still feeling kind of sick, but that's okay. I started at UF in, I believe, July 2024. I'm set to graduate in May with my... Thank you. I'm set to graduate in May with a bachelor's in political science with honors, a minor in history, and a certificate in international relations. I also am this fall starting my master's program before going to law school. This is year 3 of me being on the panel, and I now get to do it from this double-edged sword of being an alumni and a member of the board, which has been such an enriching experience. I'm so grateful for, and I hope that my words can be of some help.
All right. Okay. Dr. Joni Perkins.
Good evening. My name is Joni Perkins, and I'm the 2015 recipient of the Edna M. Hart Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. And I currently live here in Gainesville as the Manager of Philanthropy Engagement at Meridian Healthcare. After I graduated, I went to Florida State University, not usually as popular in Gainesville, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Go Noles. And yes, I am a firm believer in everything that this commission does and how it continues to enrich our community. And it's such a delight at the beginning of every year to celebrate MLK Day with these people and to see the next generation of people that are coming up as the recipients of this award and how they are contributing to the community today. So it's a delight to be here, and I'm excited for a great conversation.
All right. Tashia Miles.
Hello, my name is Tashia Miles. I am the 2009 recipient. I currently teach at Kannapolis Middle School, 7th grade math. I was also a coordinator with Upward Bound at UF before they sunset that program. It has been a pleasure working with the MLK Commission. I've even taught justice in essence. So.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Robinson Jackson. I am the 1992 Keeper of the Dream Award recipient. It's an honor for me to be here and to be back active. I have set aside my life because I have two daughters, age 19 and 31. And so I'm back.
And we're glad to have you
And
back
I'm
there.
excited about being involved again.
Okay, we're going to now go live to our studio, and let's see. Let's start with Elania Walton. Elania, you'd like to come on camera, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my full name is Lenonar Elena Elise Walton. I'm the 2008 recipient of the N.M. Hart Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award. I received my bachelor's degree in theater at the University of West Florida in Pensacola, and my Master of Fine Arts degree in acting from the University of Florida's School of Theater and Dance. Currently, I work as a actor, director, playwright, educator in Atlanta, Georgia. And recently stepped into the position of associate education director at the third largest theater in Atlanta, Georgia, Seven Stages Theater, where I'll be rebuilding their education program to continue to provide access to the arts in areas where the performing access to the performing arts are scarce, which is a huge passion of mine. I so wish that I could be there in person with all of you. I miss my hometown so much. And thank you all for just having me here with you all in this space.
All right, we thank you. Dr. John McKnight.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all. I'm so sorry I can't be there with you in person. Again, my name is John McKnight. I was one of two recipients of the scholarship in 1999, which feels like a long time ago. So I'm glad to see a full range of alumni in the room. I graduated from Eastside High School, Go Rams, in 1999, part of the IB program there, and then went on to the University of Florida, College of Journalism and Communications, then got a master's, later a doctorate, and currently serving as a vice president and dean of the college at Haverford College outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'll be moving this summer to Dartmouth College, way up in the cold state of New Hampshire. So y'all send me your warm wishes and blankets. But it's really a pleasure to be with you all, and I'm so glad to see this scholarship is still alive.
Thank you, Dr. McKnight, and congratulations on your new appointment. Dr. John Green.
Good evening, everyone. Unfair to have to follow my cousin, Dr. McKnight. Congrats to you, cousin, on your appointment to this prestigious Ivy League institution. I am John Odyssey Green II, the year 2000 co-recipient of the Edna M. Hart Keeper of the Dream Scholarship, proud graduate of Eastside High School, Go Rams. Later attended University of Florida, Bachelor of Science in Nutritional Sciences. Followed that with Doctor of Dental Surgery from University of Maryland, Baltimore. Commissioned as an officer in the United States Army. Spent 12 and a half years on active duty providing dental services for our outstanding men and women in the armed forces. In 2000, I moved to Metro Atlanta and started my endodontic specialty practice, West Georgia Endodontics. We're the best in the West. Happy to be here and appreciate and am encouraged by the success of all the members on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Melanie Acosta. Melanie Moore Acosta.
Yes.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. It is great to be with you this evening. Just want to say thank you to President Long and the entire commission for hosting an event, for putting in the work to spearhead this entire cadre of activities dedicated to the essence and the spirit of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am Melanie Moore Acosta. I am the 1998 co-recipient of the Edna Hart Keeper of the Dream Scholarship. I am a very proud graduate. You've had 3 in a row now of Eastside High School. Go Rams. After I graduated in 1998, like so many of us up here, I attended the University of Florida, receiving a bachelor's degree in journalism and communications. Followed that up with a master's in special education with an emphasis on literacy and African American students. Then followed that up with a PhD from the University of Florida as well in curriculum teaching and teacher education. Currently, I am an associate professor of education at Florida Atlantic University down here in sunny South Florida, where I study Africana studies and Black education, looking at the history and the legacy of the way African people across the diaspora have taken up the task of educating our children for life and godliness. And I am just, again, elated to be here, elated that we are reestablishing the intergenerational connection with this scholarship by bringing the alumni together to co-labor in this effort with you. And I'm looking forward to a dynamic engagement with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Melody Moore Acosta. As I said earlier, our theme is Steadfast, Unmovable against all odds. And there are several subtopics we want to talk about. First, let's talk about gun violence, since that seems to be the issue of the day in Gainesville. As I said earlier, we had some gun violence earlier in Gainesville. 2 people were killed. 2 officers were injured in the line of duty. I don't have to tell any of you here about gun violence throughout our community and throughout the state and throughout the nation. From your perspective as a alumni student, what should we as parents, the education system, the government do to try to help curb gun violence? Malcolm, what are your thoughts on that? What should we do about gun violence? What are your thoughts about gun violence? How can we solve it? What should we be doing? Is your mic on?
That's a million-dollar question, and I wish I had the answer. I didn't state my profession. I work for our local Gainesville Housing Authority as one of the COOs, and so we have faced our fair share of gun violence within our communities. And I tell you, it's an extreme challenge. It's extremely unfortunate that we've started 2026 with the act that occurred today, because in 2025 we had a rather quiet year. From our perspective, what we see and face on a regular basis, and I don't feel that the Housing Authority is separate from our broader community. We are all still neighbors and friends and relatives and churchmates. It's a certain level of mental health awareness that needs to take place. And we also have to, I think, in a way, get back to loving our neighbors. Because we see so many young people that are truly, truly lost. And whether or not they have a strong parent or I think we, in some ways and in many senses, need to get back to being a community. How I spoke to Miss Edna Hart, being my next door neighbor. Miss Hart poured into me. My neighbor to my left, the Galloways, they poured into me. I lost a neighbor 2 days ago, Miss Susie Lawrence, wife of John Lawrence. They poured into me. Mr. Sam Grant, they poured into me. And so we're working at the Housing Authority to try to create those mentorship programs and put folks in front of our kids. We just created a new space for teens at a plaza that City of Gainesville, thank you, has helped us to develop. And the goal with that is to start to touch the kids and give them some exposure. But if I had the answer, I wish, but I'll yield to my fellow panelists.
Erica, what should we be doing?
When I was giving my introduction earlier, I didn't finish. I have a unique perspective because I worked for the City of Gainesville for over 16 years as a police crime analyst. And the first thing I just want to tell you all is that Gainesville is a safe place to live. Violent crime happens. However, we have a very low crime rate compared to many other cities that surround us. So we ought to be thankful for that. One of the reasons why I make the decision to stay here to raise my children. But one of the things that I think that we should do as a society is, I think a lot of the violence now is, some of it I think stems from children being desensitized by what they see on TV, on social media. Um, they look at things differently than we do because their brains are still developing. So I think that we need to pay very close attention to what we're allowing our kids to access at young ages. Because they watch the video games and they watch the TV programs, and they eventually don't see them as reality. So when they get into a minor dispute that we used to get into disputes in school, we could get away from it. We could go home and we didn't have to worry about it following us. They get into a minor dispute in school or in the community, and it's following them through text messages, through social media, through all of these ways of constantly keeping the problems going. So we need to make sure that we, as parents and as community leaders, try to do things to limit some of that social connection, because we wouldn't allow a stranger to walk into our living room and have engage with our children. But by giving them access to social media and text messages and all that kind of thing early on, cell phones too early, we're basically allowing strangers access to our children and we don't even know it. And children are very smart. So we may think that we have guards in place, guidelines in place to keep them from accessing certain things, but there's so many ways, even through the video game systems, that they can be communicating with people that we don't know about and at times that we don't know about. So I think that's one way that we can help to, maybe shelter them a little bit more from getting that mixed up perspective that the violence is not real, because the violence is real. So just, keep that in mind. And just talk to our kids and continue to be mentors. I know that for me, having a mentor in my life is what exposed me to things that I would have never seen just in my immediate family. I had a great family, but yet they didn't have the education that gave me another perspective of, looking forward and having something to set goals to. So continue, for those who are mentors in the room, continue to be mentors, because it changed my life. And on the other side of it, being a mentor, you engage with children sometimes, and they could put on a facade, and you still don't know what they could be going through. So just make sure that you have real conversations with them. Just ask them specific questions, because you ask your kids how you did today in school, they're going to say good, but you have to make them elaborate on what's good. So just talking to them and everything. And so I think that's a way that we can help to curb gun violence, is letting them know how real guns are, and we got to get out there and vote too, because we got to get rid of these AK-47s and all of those things that really, really mess people up.
So gun control is also one of those things we need to deal with.
Yeah.
Dr. McKnight, what are your thoughts on gun violence and how we should address it and how we should approach it?
And I really want to echo what's already been shared. This is a big problem, and I think big problems require big solutions, and they require cross industry, cross field study, and cross field solutions. So for me, it's partly about education, as has already been stated, but it's also really, really important that we take a systematic approach. We do need to be critiquing through policies at the city, state, kind of local, national level. Access to guns is really the main issue. And so who we vote into office matters a lot. The kind of legislation that we stand for or don't stand for within our communities matters a lot. And never before have we seen such carelessness about human life. I think this is probably an all-time low, what we're seeing now. People walking into churches, schools, walking into places that used to at some point be widely known and understood as sort of off limits or out of bounds. But with that level of concern, I think we need an all hands on deck approach. And I really think we need a systematic approach. Education needs to work with business, government, so on and so forth across sector.
Thank you. Dr. Melanie, your thoughts?
Yes, great question. I think all the folks who have shared before, those are very promising initiatives that we're doing. That should go into the approach for gun violence. I'll just add that it's really important for Black people for us to have dialogue and consensus on violence, right? And the patterns of violence that affect Black people and have affected us over time. So having conversation amongst ourselves so we can align our heads, right? So the theme of the MLK Commission this year is Steadfast, Unmovable. So it's very important that us as Black folks, we be steadfast, but what are we steadfast in? What are we anchored in? In times of trouble, African people, the first thing we did was realign our heads with each other. Because living in this society, this foreign, alien, cultural society that we're in, the first thing that it does is try to separate us from ourselves, from our culture, from our mind. That's why our ancestors always had a song. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed. I shall not be moved. I'm a tree anchored. We're talking about mindfulness here. And that is something that has to happen within and across our Black communities, right? So we're all over. We're not nested in segregated spaces where we're always around each other, enjoying each other, and can have these conversations all the time. So it's important that we create spaces and opportunities such as this one we're having tonight, where we can gather together and reason together and understand, locate ourselves where we are in this present moment in proximity to where we've been. And we have to be the ones to author that story. So many times there are others who are telling us who we are, telling us how gun violence has affected us, but it's high time that we have to own and author the narrative of gun violence as it affects Black people. And we've got to start the story at the beginning, not in the middle. This is the middle, right? And so that necessitates a really deep root cause analysis of, well, what is the problem? Du Bois would argue, in his Souls of Black Folks, the first line is, how does it feel to be a problem? Well, when we look at gun violence, are we inherently saying that Black people are the problem? So having that root cause analysis where we can carefully, amongst ourselves first, because this is an inter-conversation that we have to have amongst ourselves to align our heads. And then we present that out to the world with solutions, but having a really clear understanding of where are we now, locate ourselves as a people, who are the we, and then have a really, really concerted, as Dr. McKnight said, across system, systematic root cause analysis so we can understand, well, what is the problem? And how do we disentangle the idea that Black people are the problem from the problem?
Thank you so much, Dr. Acosta. Dr. Perkins, share with us.
Yes. So one of the unique things about the city of Gainesville and Alachua County is that over the last few years, we have been very intentional about creating programs centered around gun violence. We have the Community Gun Violence Awareness Alliance. We have Be Smart Alachua County, and we have lots of resources that surround this issue. But us as a community have to have a cultural shift in order to take advantage of the intentional resources that are being provided in our community, as well as a lot of the programming that is currently being provided and funded by the Children's Trust, right? A lot of this spews from our young people being in the mix of this violence, utilizing social media and the cultural norms that are currently being established to where that's the way they choose to spend their time. But having a cultural shift into allowing the different initiatives that have been provided and taking advantage of them to the utmost degree. Centers like formerly the YMCA, but now the North Central Florida Community Center, they have a teen night once a month for these students to be able to come together in a safe space and be able to communicate to each other in a way that doesn't involve that culture of violence. And I think as a community, we need to take advantage of these resources and really dive into them and be a part of those conversations. Attend the meetings of the Community Gun Violence Alliance, attend the meetings of Be Smart, Alachua County, and let our voices be heard on how this affects our community and use the resources that they're providing. I think that is step one. And then step two is having that cultural shift day to day with our neighbors and being able to be those people. And we always hear stories about how Mr. Aquin Jones used to be on his porch and talking to students as they go by, coming home from school and watching them and being like, hey, you don't need to be doing that, you know? Like having that shift and paradigm shift to where we are focusing on enriching our young people and providing them the outlets that are outside of that narrative of violence. And then the last thing is really securing our weapons that we have, right? Because it's our right to be able to own weapons and use them how we choose. We live in the South, you know, people hunt, people do whatever they want to do. But something great that Be Smart Alachua County provides is secure gun locks to be able to secure those weapons so they do not fall into the hands of our teens and do not get into the hands of nefarious actors and things like that. So that is utilizing all of those steps that are currently being provided here in Gainesville and here in Alachua County, taking advantage of them and being a part of that conversation.
Educational resources, good point. Caden, share with us.
So I would say for me, I'm a part of a generation in which, you know, we grew up with phones. We grew up, you know, seeing so many things and being exposed to so much at a very young age. And I think that now everything is accelerated, you know, the things and the ideas that, you know, that you're exposed to. And so I even know the saying, you know, everything starts at home. And, you know, as, you know, this generation, my generation, we're getting older now. And, you know, I think people are starting to realize, you know, as you know, the crime rates and stuff are going up for people, you know, within my age group. We're realizing that in, you know, this technological advancement and all these different things, there is a disconnect in the mental health and, you know, the upbringing of people a part of my generation. So I think that it really starts, you know, with the parents and being able to not only support your children, but having intentional conversation with them, being vulnerable with them, being able to, you know, not only just be an outlet, you know, for them to go to, because, you know, there's so many things that we're exposed to and things that we don't understand. And, you know, if we're not taught to understand, not taught to, you know, not only right from wrong, but why this is wrong, why, you know, the things that are right are right. So I just think that, you know, the disconnect has been seen. You know, we know that there's a disconnect somewhere, so it's time to act now.
Great point. Being of that generation, you definitely understand it. That's a great perspective. Elenia, share with us your thoughts.
There were a couple of points that were made that I kind of want to circle back and touch on that I just want to highlight that were great points that I want to highlight from a different perspective. I heard someone mention, especially talking about how children more often than not are now starting to engage with like online gaming and different, all the gaming that sometimes can promote violent, certain violent behaviors or tendencies for them. Something I didn't mention earlier when I was introducing myself is that I'm also a parent. And I'm a parent to a 9.5-year-old little girl. And the children of her generation specifically, they find they have the abilities to build entire worlds for themselves within the games that they play. It's often how they engage in dramatic play. So I just want to reiterate what everyone has stated already, the importance of communicating with your children and getting inside these devices. They're not just having. It used to be a time that if you limited access to electronic devices at home, that you felt that you were doing everything you were supposed to do. But now in elementary school, as young as kindergarten, and even I'm starting to see in certain artistic residencies that I do at public schools, even as little as pre-K, children are getting access to technology by way of, tablets, or, even in depending on where about the school is located. I have taught in artistic residencies where 5-year-olds had iPads, the latest edition of iPads that the school provided for them, and on it goes. And as they get older, sometimes they are, even in certain schools, on and on it goes. So I think it just wanting to reiterate the idea of having those conversations, being mindful about what your children are having access to, not just with your children, but with their teachers as well, because often teachers will allow students to engage in things like Minecraft or Roblox, like in their free time at school. And some of that free dramatic play can lean in the direction that we're discussing this evening. So just wanted to reiterate that, just leaning into having those discussions with your children. If you find yourself within your career field having access to being able to work with children and share your thoughts and ideas, present yourself as a soft place to land so that they know that you are accessible and approachable, so that they will share.
Thank you so much for that perspective. To share with us.
I completely agree with everything that Erica was saying and Malcolm was saying. It does take a community to help, and children have really become desensitized. I talk to students every day, and the conversations that they have, it's kind of like you don't understand what you are saying or the consequences of it. So a lot of times I tell them every action has a consequence. Unfortunately, in the school system, those consequences don't always match their actions. And so when they come out into the community, it's like, uh-oh, in school it wasn't like that. And so I have that conversation with them often. And a lot of times I think back to the 12-year-old in Ocala that murdered the girl, and he really could not understand, hey, I admitted to it. I told you what I did. Why do I have to go to jail? And mom was like, because you took someone's life. He couldn't understand it. So for an example, if students fight at a school, you go home and mom is like, oh, okay, sit in the AC. You don't have to go to class. You can play your video games. As a parent and as a community, we can say, hey, I might have to go to work, but Miss Jones down the road needs her yard rake. Come on out here and rake these leaves. That way, it's like, oh, it's fine. I get to sit in ISD all day. I don't like math or reading anyway. And so I think that the desensitized and their consequences not matching their actions, and then when they come into society, they can't comprehend what's going on. Hey, I shot someone. They don't think, hey, that's a chance that you can kill that person. They don't come back. On the video game, they just charge up and they jump back up and they keep playing. But that's not real life. And sometimes as 12, 13, 14-year-olds, it's very hard for them to understand that if no one is having that conversation with them.
That's an interesting perspective, certainly being a middle school teacher. That is a very interesting perspective. Justice, bring us home. Tell us your thoughts about this topic.
Okay. Echoing what Caden said, we are a generation that grew up with technology. Like, I remember when the iPad was first introduced. And another point that I'd like to reiterate is we grow up desensitized to it. Like, something I vividly remember, December 14th, 2012 was the day that Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut was shot. I remember it because the victims were kindergartners and first graders alongside staff. I was in first grade at the time, and I must say, being 6 years old and watching children your age die at the hands of a madman is a terrifying thing to go through. What's even more terrifying is how desensitized we as a society have become to it. Like, I can think in my lifetime, I'm about 19 years old. I can think of so many major shootings that have occurred, from Parkland in 2018, Uvalde 2022, Virginia Tech 2007, Charleston, where a church, a peaceful congregation, was shot by a racist in 2015. This is not something that we should have to grow up with. American children, alongside dealing with the pressures of school and academia and society in general, should not also have to constantly go to somewhere where they are supposed to be enriched, where they are supposed to be safe, and have the feeling that we may not return home. They should not be used to lockdown drills where they have to cower in corners or under their desks. So it becomes, how do we solve that problem? Well, that's difficult when you have politicians in certain positions who care more about money than they do the livelihoods of their citizens. That complicates the issue. But we can control a bit more what happens on a local level, which thankfully we live in a city where politicians actually do care about our livelihoods, and the community cares, and we take steps to encourage each other and try to prevent this from happening. Teamwork is a major part of it. It does start at home. I think back to my own upbringing. My father's actually here. The first couple years of my life, up until I was about 7 or 8 years old, I was only allowed to watch educational programming and access technology for education. And by the time I was given free reign, I had been well educated about technology, what it is, how to safely use it. The same can be said for this. I grew up in a household where it was constantly reiterated. Violence was not the answer, whether that be with your fists or whether that be with a weapon in your hand. And I think a major way that we as a people and as a community can band together and kind of help to combat this is continuing to focus on community and continue to reiterate messages of peace. Dr. King himself practiced that principle of violence is not the answer, and it is adopting that that will help us face this issue.
Thank you so much, Justice, for ending on that topic. Very interesting cross-generational perspective of different students here, former students, about this topic. All of them very, very well received. Something that all of you can share because you're now in your career. I guess if you look back when you were in high school, some of you probably knew exactly what you wanted to do when you graduated from high school, and you went right to it, and you're probably doing it. So let's talk about career development. Where you are now, are you doing what you thought you were going to do when you were in high school and you said, I'm going to be that or this? Let's talk about career development from your perspective. And also, what is it students should be doing in order to have a successful career? Okay, Dr. McKnight, share that with us first. Be the first one to share that with us.
Well, again, great question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond. The quick answer is no, I'm not doing what I thought I would be doing in high school. I wasn't sure when I graduated from Eastside what I wanted to do. I knew I had a lot of intellectual curiosity. I wanted to know how the world worked. You know, I mentioned briefly in my earlier response, I was curious about systems. How does business link up with nonprofit? How does education and law and medicine and all of it, how does it work together to form local and state and, sort of nationwide systems? And that was something I knew I was curious about. Ultimately, when I got to the University of Florida as an undergraduate, I started realizing that my passion was in working with young people. At the time, they were my peers. As a student leader leading orientation at the University of Florida, they call it preview out there. I guess they're still doing that probably. Having that experience as an orientation leader really taught me that I was not only reasonably good at it, but that I was deeply passionate about lifelong learning, deeply passionate about the ways in which education could move mountains, not just for individuals, but for families and for communities. And so I started to hone in on that as a career path, sort of maybe about my junior year at the University of Florida, realizing that's really what I wanted to do. I also was following the footsteps of my father. Some of you might know John McKnight Sr., who was working in higher education at the time, and realized, you know, from the time I started college in 1999, I never have to leave college. I can stay there for the rest of my life if I choose a career working in higher education. And so that's what I ultimately decided to do. For the young people in the room and those who may be watching online, I would just say be open. My advice to graduating seniors with the colleges that I've worked in is you don't have to choose your last job when you graduate. You just have to choose your first job. And there may be many, many steps that light up for you along the way. Sometimes you may not even know that a field exists, and there are new fields being created as we speak. You know, people are talking about the disruption of AI, and it certainly is disruptive. But the other side of that coin is there are new fields being created every single day that we don't even know about. So rather than to focus on a singular pathway or a singular career path for yourself, my suggestion humbly would be to be open minded and to take the steps as they light up for you, and to be curious about how things work and how things work together, because that will mean that you're always able to have a career that is fulfilling for yourself.
Thank you. Dr. Green, when you graduated from Eastside, did you think that you would have a successful practice in Atlanta, Georgia? Is that the career path you chose?
It was not, much like I would imagine most of the alumni here. I did have an inclination for healthcare, and going through UF. Well, I guess starting even further, my dad, rest in peace, he told me, "You're going to be a doctor," right? So that's one way to do it. So I went to school with the aspiration to go into medicine. Um, Segue, I had taken the MCAT, and I was at the University of Maryland doing a summer internship program and shadowing some surgeons. And I realized that this is not the specific path that I wanted to take. Fortunately for me, I had good grades, and having studied for the MCAT, I was able to prepare for the DAT on short notice and get a good score, which allowed me to pivot into something that I felt was more I guess, enriching for my skill set. My point of bringing up the pivot is if you make enough right decisions when times come for you to make decisions, you'll be ready for it. So you may not know what you want. Students that are in the audience, you may not know exactly what you want to be, but make good grades with whatever you're studying, right? That gives you options and opportunities to pivot if need be. And discovery will come. Football coach from Eastside, Coach James Spear used to tell us all to fly to the football, right? So, if you're moving around, if you're active, if you're involved in community service, the football analogy is if you're close enough to the football, something will find you, right? The ball's going to pop out and potentially give you an opportunity to make an impact. So just be good at whatever you choose to do, and keep yourself busy, bettering yourself.
Awesome. Michelle, did you see yourself being a math teacher at Kannapolis when you graduated from high school? Is that what you wanted to do?
I did. I always wanted to be a teacher. I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. But since I was so good at math, everyone said, try engineering. And so I said, well, I'll be an engineer, but I still kind of want to be a teacher. So I was in a program called Step Up program at the University of Florida. And they used to take us on all these field trips, and I was going, and over 6 weeks, I told my advisor, I said, look, I'm not interested in this stuff. I don't think I can see myself doing this every day. He said, well, that's okay, just tough it out, because you can have an engineering degree, you can still teach. And I said, okay, because teachers don't make money, engineers do. Okay. And as I went through, my major changed. And then I went back and got my master's in curriculum and instruction. And so when I graduated, I went to work at the credit union, and everybody was like, you're so good at math, go the finance route. Oh man, those were the longest 9 to 3 days looking at those walls. And they said, well, maybe you should go to HR, maybe. And GHS called me, and I said, I'm leaving, I'm going to GHS. And so I started high school teaching math, and then I went to Kannapolis. If I had to pick, my first certification was elementary school. And so I got hired at GHS on a temporary certificate because I was only certified to teach elementary and middle. And so I like that. I went to middle school, and I love middle school. That was the last choice, so that's the only difference. I thought I wanted to teach elementary school. I would never teach elementary school now. But I did want to be a math teacher. Everything I did kind of lined me up. I started tutoring. When I was in high school, I tutored all through college. I still tutor some now. Everything I did volunteer-wise was at a school. So that was my first choice, and I love it most days.
And you're doing a great job, too. Malcolm, did you see yourself as the CFO of a major corporation?
So we're in the house of the Lord, so
Yes, we are.
watch what I'll say. I'll say, going back to my time and trying to recall what was going through my mind when I was becoming the keeper of the dream. And my parents, most folks know my parents were educators, public servants, members of our community. My father would have to be called before the church and tell when report cards are coming out, and when everywhere we went, it was what's going on with education. And so I knew I didn't want to be a teacher, but I knew I had to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but that was an expectation in my household, is that you're going to college, you're going to college somewhere. I'm on this panel, and this is a funny story to me, and I'll hurry up. All of the UF students and graduates. I also was going to the University of Florida, and I got into an argument with my mother because she told me I couldn't take my car to UF. And so I went to FAMU sight unseen. My parents were Cookman graduates. I'd never been to FAM. I'd never been to a homecoming. I'd never really been to Tallahassee. And I ended up at FAMU for orientation and went to FAMU for undergrad. And so I'll say me determining what I wanted to become all changed once I got dropped off of the 7th of the highest hills and saw the set and saw everything else. We're in the house of the Lord.
You're telling the truth. You're telling the truth now.
It was a journey. So it was a definite journey, and a part of my journey also was losing my father my third year of college. So that redirected my focus. It was now just graduate. Just get a degree. That he'd be happy with that. Your mama be happy. There's no pressure. And so I did. And again, I talked about in the first question, your village. So I matriculated from FAM. I got out. And when I got out, I got an interview for a position with Nationwide Insurance. And I was interviewed by this middle-aged African-American man. I didn't know who he was. Got the job. He called me, said, Malcolm, we're going to offer you a job. Okay. The job I applied for was in Tallahassee. So after he's offered me the position, tells me what my next steps are, he says, do you know who I am? I said, no, I don't know you. I don't know who you are, Mr. Porter. And he said, Malcolm, I'm from Gainesville. I attended Eastside High School, and I played basketball against some of the teams your father coached at Santa Fe High School. I know your father just passed away. You earned the job, but you need to go home and be with your mother. And so my first job after college was at Nationwide Insurance on Williston Road. That is not what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be an insurance adjuster, okay? But I was an insurance adjuster for roughly 6 years. And again, I think what I learned and determined then was that this pays my bills. I'm still having a whole lot of fun, but I'm not passionate about this. And ironically enough, President Long and others, I was kind of weird. When I would pass Channel 12 and see a city commission meeting or a county commission meeting, I'd stop and watch. I thought it was interesting. I was like, what are they talking about?
Really?
I'm like, why are they talking about this? What do you mean? What is a wastewater surcharge? And what is that? And I really thought it was interesting. And I eventually, how life works, and again to gentlemen on the call, education, lifelong education, and being the child of educators, had a family friend who had gone through a program called the National Urban Fellows Program. And I was a claims adjuster. I really didn't have the chops to really apply for this program because these were mid-career professionals in public service and in foundation work and in other things. And so I applied, and they flew me to New York City, and by the grace of God, I was selected to be a part of that cohort. And so I became a National Urban Fellow. I earned a MPA, That sent me to Seattle, where I worked for Seattle City Light, the power company there. And then again, I'm in Seattle, Washington, in a studio apartment downtown with skyscrapers all around me. And I'm just like, I'm just a black kid from East Gainesville. What am I doing here? What's next on my journey? And so I guess my point is just I tell young folks, my peers still, just go on the adventure. Follow the adventure, pray on it, and go. That ended up bringing me back to Gainesville. Was fortunate enough to get a job with the city of Gainesville in the CRA. We did some amazing projects, and what that taught me was I don't have to know what I'm doing. That's also very freeing. When you can say, well, they asked me to do this, but I have no idea how I'm doing it.
He's in the church. Now he's in the church.
Yeah,
y'all.
I'm in the church, but all I knew is that I loved the work I was doing. And so from there, life took me to the city of Tampa. I never wanted to work for a HUD because there's too many rules. And CRA and cities, still a lot of rules in cities, but not like HUD. And just another transition point in my life. My mother was getting older. The housing authority created a position. I called a former board member, a late board member, Miss Marie, and I said, is this a real job? She said, Malcolm, it's a real job, but no one thinks she'll ever come back to Gainesville. I'm like, but I love Gainesville, and I love East Gainesville. And somehow, through God's grace, I've been put in a position to have an impact on what goes on or some of the projects that are going on in East Gainesville. And so it's a double bottom line for me. So I'll leave it at follow your passion, go pursue education, kind of like the she knew she wanted to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to be in government. I didn't know how. I don't know where this adventure is going to take me, but I feel as though it's like a double bottom line. I'm helping and giving back to my community. I get paid a fair wage, and I sleep very well at night.
It can probably take you to Channel 12 in government. Okay, let's go to Elania. You're in Atlanta.
Yes,
You're a writer, director, playwright.
I do the things.
Is
Yes,
that
sir.
your passion? Is that what you always wanted to do when you left high school?
So yeah, let's talk about it. Actually, to piggyback on this idea of being open to shifting your journey, when I actually began high school as a freshman, I was on the medical track. I wanted to be an OBGYN. Um, and so that is where I was like putting all of my energy. And it was actually because I was a member of the speech and debate team in high school and began to compete as an interpreter. I was one of the only freshman to qualify for national and interpretants, which kind of align themselves with, acting and performing. And so my coach at the time was just like, well, you're very young. You're the only like lower classman on the team to, be doing this. I want you to get some extra coaching. I want you to go and see Ted Lewis. Also, I am a graduate of Buchholz High School. Go Bobcats. And he said, my coach at the time said, go see Ted Lewis, the drama teacher, and ask him if he will be willing to give you that extra coaching. And so I went and I did one of my interpret events for him. And he said, okay, well, I think, that was great. And I would be more than happy to coach you. In exchange, I would like for you to audition for the fall musical. And I was just like, no, I am going to help women and babies, and I'm not doing that. And then he said, well, that's fine, but you don't have to. But then I'm not going to coach you, and then you don't get to go to nationals. So what are you going to do? So I auditioned for the school musical. And it was in that experience that I realized that I had a passion for acting. That is how it started. And that's why, and also, like I knew I kind of liked different parts of like the different components that make theater, but acting was where I thought, like this is what I'm going to do. So went to University of West Florida, studied there. And coming out of undergrad, I just thought like, okay, acting is it. We're going to go out. We're going to go to the auditions. And I will live my life on stages, and that's all I want to do forever and ever. Amen. And so that's, what I did. I kind of want to pause here to just say, whatever your field of study, once you don't be don't be fearful of taking a leap of faith and launching yourself into that career path. I feel like more often than not, especially when students are coming out of that undergraduate degree, someone will try to say, well, you should, take this smaller, like this entry level position, or maybe you want to go for this internship that could turn into a greater position, or maybe one thing about me, even when I was solely focused on acting, and if you hear something in the background, like I said, I am a mom because my daughter just laughed very loudly. Apologies. One thing about me is that I never allowed anyone to tell me what I should be doing. So when you come out as a young actor, people try to tell you that you should, try to stay local, or try to, go for these smaller jobs that will pay the bills, but it's not as much pressure. But that wasn't enough for me. So I was like, I took a step out and I started, I moved to Orlando, Florida. And the first job that I booked out of undergrad was at at the now it's called, well, at the time it was called Orlando Repertory Theater. And that is the second largest theater in Orlando, Florida. And so I just continued to work as an actor and performer. And then when I started working on, well, a little bit everywhere. And then it got to a point where I realized that the industry standard was changing. What was expected of me as an actor coming into an audition was changing. What it meant to go after certain auditions and opportunities were changing. And that's when I realized it was time for me to go back to school to receive more training because the world was starting to change. And that's what led. And also, I missed my home. So I decided to um, go after my master's degree, and wanted to do it where I could be close to home and what was familiar, where I could get my strength before I went back out into the big bad world. And it was once I was in grad school that I realized that yes, I love acting, but acting isn't necessarily enough. When you are an actor, you're put in a very vulnerable position in which you have very little say in the representation that you're giving and the stories that you're telling. And it became very clear to me that if I wanted honest representation, not just for Black people, but specifically for Black women, not only in theater, but in television and film, that I needed to be brave enough to take control of the narrative. And that's what led me into wanting to be a director and be a writer. Um, my graduate class was the class of 2020, and we all remember what happened in 2020. And having I like to call it the opportunity to launch my career and where it is now from that vulnerable space, taught me to be a self-starter, taught me to not be afraid to take up space in certain rooms, especially working in an industry where there are few women people who look like me, who have graduate level degrees. And so that's what I've continued to do. Being a working actor, artist, and person, it has, and coming from the community that I come from, taught me to be fearless and trailblazing a path for myself. Um, Even in the position that I have now, I saw a need that here in Atlanta, Georgia, in DeKalb County, there is very limited access to the performing arts and education. Because of my upbringing has always all been as much of a passion of mine as well as the performing arts. So now that's what I'm getting to do, providing high level performing arts training in areas here in Atlanta, Georgia, where they don't often have access to it. Um, so yeah, all that to say, as you continue to build and grow, don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. Don't let anyone try to put limits around the dreams that you have for yourself and the career path that you want to create for yourself. Um, because little, highly melanated girls from Gainesville, Florida, no one expects for us to go after the Broadway and the creating original works and producing original works. So never allow anyone to limit you and the things that you want to build for yourself. So yes, that's me.
Great. You're doing great work in Atlanta. Dr. Perkins, are you doing now what you thought you were going to be doing when you left Santa Fe High School?
Yes
Oh, really?
and no.
Oh.
So, I grew up, and when you're young and people are always like, "You gonna be a politician, baby? You gonna be a politician?" And I believe that.
I thought you were going to be a politician. I really
And I
did.
still have time to do that.
Yes,
okay.
you sure do.
And so when I graduated from high school, I went to Florida State, and I did start off studying political science because that was the pathway that was laid out for me and what I saw for myself. But something that was always close to me in my upbringing, and something that my parents always instilled in me, was servitude to my community and civil service. And that's what I loved. And so after a semester of that political science, I changed my major to cultural anthropology because I really wanted to learn about culture, who we are as a people, and who we are throughout the diaspora and around the world, as well as international affairs in that nonprofit and civic leadership realm. Because I really felt like that was my calling, and I've stuck with that since that day. And I've built a career at the nexus of art and cultural preservation, education, nonprofit management, and just in the middle of that. That's where I wanted to be. And so, yes, I currently work in the nonprofit sector and have since that day. Well, actually, after I graduated college, I went on to be a part of Teach for America. And part of that was me wanting to know about the plight of our students in the educational system, working in Title I schools and being a teacher, but also working within that major nonprofit and how they create that space in these communities. And so I got to learn on that front, and then I moved on to working in the nonprofit sector exclusively. And so I wanted to live in that space. And I currently work at Meridian Healthcare, a local nonprofit here, and that's what I love to do. And I'm able to fund programs and projects and create community through that space. But I also found that who I am and what I want to be comes not only from my career, but the things that I'm able to do in my community. So I'm a huge proprietor of joining a board of something that you're passionate about. I'm lucky to sit on the board of the Cotton Club Museum, as well as on the advisory board of the Center for Nonprofit, or the Center for Humanities in the Public Sphere at UF. And that satisfies my fulfillment in cultural arts and in education and preserving that. And also like being in plays at the Star Center Theater and things like that, being involved in all of these things in our community, that's so fulfilling for me beyond my career path. And so, yes, I am doing what I want to do and living in that dream, not only in what I do from 9 to 5, but what I do from 5 to 9 in the evening as well. And a lot of that came from being involved in those things when I was in school. I've been a part of the Star Center Theater since I went to this elementary school right here across the street, Duval Elementary, where I first met Miss Rhonda. And I was involved in speech and debate, and I was involved in different community and church initiatives that my parents had me be involved in. So I'm a huge proponent that every black girl and boy in our community should be involved in something in their community, some extracurricular activity, whether it's Project Manhood or CROP or McKnight Achievers or Achieve at Santa Fe College and things like that, so that they're able to get that exposure in the things that they love, and they're able to carry that into their future beyond whatever career path they choose.
Well, you've done well, though. Extremely well. Erica, are you doing what you thought you were going to do when you graduated from Gainesville High School in 1992?
Believe it or not, I thought I was going to be a fighter pilot.
Oh.
And I still get a rush every time one of them jets fly across the sky. I scored very high on my ASVAB test. So the recruiters were really out to get me. They were sitting in my living room my first year out of high school all the time. I could not convince my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, to go to the military with me.
A 2 for 1. Okay.
So Gainesville High School gave me not only this award, but he gave me my future husband and the father of my 2 girls. I thought I was going to be that fighter pilot, and I know that I'll never be that now. I don't desire to be that anymore. But I've been actually working since I was 14 years old through programs like JTPA, Cooperative Business Ed, where I met a lot of my mentors along the way. I think I ended up where I am now because I've always been a lifelong learner. And I did graduate from Santa Fe College and I got my certification in Internet Technology Support. Yet, I knew what I didn't want to do, and I knew that I didn't want to be in college for a long time. So that led me to getting certifications versus going back to getting more degrees. But by being a lifelong learner, I've always loved analytics. If I have a topic that I'm interested in, I would go on the computer and I would do research and find out more about it and self-train. So a lot of my positions require a bachelor's and master's degrees that I've held, yet I'm not there. I haven't received my bachelor's degree. I've received my certifications, and I've gone back to get certifications like in Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I've gotten a certification with the Department of Justice, and that has taken me to a salary, which is why we all work, that's consistent with a lot of people who have gotten their PhDs. So right now, I'm a lead analyst with the City of Gainesville at GRU, and I am working in their systems control area. Basically, I help the department forecast and predict how much power it's going to take to operate the City of Gainesville. So that's what I do on my regular job. And I have 23 years of experience with the City of Gainesville. So that's where I am now.
Wow. Okay. I guess you be busy when it comes to those hurricanes, don't you?
Yes, from my living room.
Dr. Melanie, are you doing exactly what it is you wanted to do when you graduated from Eastside High School?
In a nutshell, yes. At its core. And that's such a beautiful question to allow reflection on, because it just reminds me that when we stay obedient to the workings of the Spirit in our lives and our inner knowing and our inner call, when we stay flexible and allow ourselves to follow that, even though what we may do may not look like what we said we were going to do when we were younger, we wind up operating, giving, serving, and working in the same broader capacity as where we've always begun. And it's listening to everyone's story, it's like I really can locate parts of my journey across everyone's story, right? So, folks who are talking about career development being a journey, right? And really balancing other folks' expectations who are often very well meaning, balancing that with just following your own light, right? Um, and laying a good foundation. So one brother talked about laying a good academic foundation, even if you don't know what you're going to do. Lay yourself a good foundation. I would also add a good character foundation, integrity, um, honesty, listening to yourself, hearing your own thoughts, because those are the internal career development moves that are going to put you in places, keep you in spaces, and elevate you to different spaces when, in as it is added to your academic development. So when I graduated high school, I didn't have it nailed down exactly what I would do. I do remember in fifth grade telling my parents in the car that I wanted to be a pediatrician, right? I wanted to be a doctor. And I am a doctor, and I do heal, work, and serve young people. Um, and it doesn't look like what I thought, but that's just the beauty of when you partner with God. God is like, nah, sis, for you, pediatrician, that's the bare minimum. Let me just show you. Let me just follow me, and I'm going to create a table for you, that can allow you to bring together your talents, your acquired skills, but also your spiritual gifts that you've been endowed with, right? So when you partner with God in this work called career development, it allows you to bring together all three of those things. And a lot of times you're going to be working in places and spaces that haven't been created yet. I am a very proud mother of six, five living. And what I have been very adamant about saying to my children all throughout their journey, my oldest is 25, is that, you don't have to be able to language and identify what you want to do right now. Follow your light, lay a good spiritual character and academic foundation. And what you will do hasn't even been identified or created and invented yet. Um, and so, yes, I am doing the work that I thought I'd be doing. And that's the message that I'd like to leave with the young.
All right, doctor. You are a doctor. That is true. Our two most recent graduates are on a track now. So you're not very far removed from high school. So you can really see from where you were and where you want to go. Justice, you're on a track. You're getting ready to graduate. I heard you say earlier in the fall you're going to law school, grad school. Tell us about the rest of your track now that you see where you are, where you're going.
Okay, so I've known I wanted to be a lawyer basically since I could talk. Um, it's actually part of the story behind my name. I believe my name was supposed to be Aubrey, but a couple days before I was born, my dad was in D.C. He was on a missionary trip. They were in the Supreme Court, praying in the Supreme Court. That is where he got the notion to name me Justice. I feel like it's pretty important. So, the idea of law and, more importantly, fighting for people is something that I've always been geared toward. Like, kindergartners say, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be the president, I want to be a lawyer. And as I grew, that never changed, but how it looked kind of did. Like, first of all, I insisted all through elementary, middle school, I want to go to Harvard. And then between the college admission scandal and COVID, I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do that anymore. I think I'd rather just, go home, stay home. So ultimately, that's what I did. There was a thought that I would just do undergrad, go straight to law school. But now that I'm here, I'm on accelerated track. I want to take a bit more time. I want to get more experience. So I said, okay, I'll do grad school down to the area of law I wanted to do. When I was younger, I thought I would do, the classic criminal law. As I get older, I realize I do not want to have to look at crime scenes all day. That's a lot. So for a couple of years, I was bouncing back and forth. I'll do family law, I'll do constitutional law, not really knowing. And it was my junior year when I started doing Model United Nations that I kind of got a better idea of what I wanted to do. So now in what I'm doing, I'm making sure to be intentional in and out of my academics. In my academics, taking classes now that are more centered around international relations, what's going on in the world outside my academics. Among my extracurriculars, there's Kappa Alpha Pi, a new pre-law organization here at UF. It's their first year. I'm on the service chair because, as was said, that idea of serving people and serving your community is something I grew up watching, and I wanted to do that one way or another. And there's Model United Nations at UF. I'm quite excited. I'm going to be heading to Canada in a couple of weeks to represent UF internationally. So now I'm like really certain that this is what I want to do, though I do realize that that can still be subject to change. So looking at it, I think it's after coming up with multiple drafts of my plan, I've settled on a plan, and while I know that that plan can change, I'm open to those changes. I also know that now that I have a really good idea of what I want to do, I should take the steps towards it.
And we will be keeping an eye to see. Oh, we're already confident you're going to do what you want to do. Caton, you're the last one. You graduated 2025. I've heard you say what you want to say. I can't even spell it, but tell us where you're going.
So just listening to everybody's stories definitely was encouraged. I was reminded of a story of my own. My grandma may not remember, but I remember in second grade we were like doing these projects, and basically we were telling our teachers like what we wanted to be when we grew older, and everybody had their field that they wanted to go into, and I remember that I said I wanted to be a paleontologist studying dinosaur bones, and I remember like telling my grandma, and we had a good laugh about it. But I think the underlying theme in that moment was I was just eager to learn about different things, learning something new. And so I think that, throughout my, middle school journey, high school journey, I was just exposed to so much new information and, just fields that I didn't even know existed. And so now, being at the University of Florida and even in high school, having opportunities, to do research, in a university lab, I would say the biggest thing for me now is choosing what's real. And, last year, just the aspirations of being a neurosurgeon, aspiration I still have. And one experience that I had this past summer, while I was doing research, I was shadowing a physician, who I do research with in the lab, and he's also a physician. I was shadowing with him at the hospital. And I remember going into this hospital room, checking on one patient that he had. He was just making his rounds. And she was a 19-year-old black girl, who was going through, her chemotherapy treatment, with cancer. And I'm not sure how she's doing now, but I knew she would be on her last round of chemo in September. And, just walking into the room and, seeing her and her family, and just seeing how real cancer was, and, just how hopeful she was, to be going through her last round of chemotherapy, despite what the situation may be, and just how, that disease had just tarnished, her life and her health condition. And, just sitting in that room, it was so real to me. It was almost like gut-wrenching, just seeing her going through this. You're just having to go through, the typical treatment, but there's no instantaneous, solution. And so I still believe that medicine is my call, healthcare is my call, whether it's surgery, whether it's emergency medicine, whether it's being a physician, that's what's real to me. So,
Well, we know, and you're going to make it real. Okay, this is the last. We're going to be very brief on this one because our time is winding down. And if you can keep it under 2 minutes, that'd be good. Tell the people the students more specifically who are watching, why is it important to go to college? Why is it important to go to college? Okay, Dr. McKnight, why is it important to go to college?
Oh boy, you got to give me 2 minutes on this one, and this is what I do for a living. So, um, you know, people say college is not for everyone, and I certainly understand that sentiment. There are so many ways for people to have education and preparation for the different careers that they will ultimately choose. Um, I would say though that there are so many different types of colleges and universities that college can be for everyone who wants a college education. So I want to just start there because I think that's a myth is that it's not for everyone. But there are so many different types of programs from vocational to 2 year, 4 year, state, private, large, small, and there are a lot of misunderstandings and myths out there about what college attainment actually is. So I just wanted to start by debunking that. And as someone who's chosen to work in higher education for my whole career, what I can say for sure is that college is about teaching you not only what you need to know, but how to learn, how to think, how to be critical, how to engage across difference. Part of the experience for all the schools that I've been able to attend and ultimately work in is that you learn just as much outside of the classroom as you learn inside the classroom about how to develop, the kind of skills that you need in the workforce, but also how to just be a good human being and respect other people no matter where they're coming from. So I think those are some of the critical reasons to go to college. Again, doesn't matter where you go, there are a lot of options out there. If you anyone who, let me just offer this, anyone who wants to know a little bit more about the college application, admission, journey, this is my whole life. I can talk a lot about that, particularly for those of you who are current high school students or even currently enrolled in a college somewhere. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to share my contact information with you. I'll leave it at that, but there's so much more to be said.
Thank you so much, Dr. McKnight. Elena, why is it important to go to college?
Were you addressing me?
Yes. 2
Okay,
minutes
just
or
wanted to
less.
make
Tell us
sure.
that.
Make sure. For sure. I'd like to begin with just quoting the great Langston Hughes in his poem, The Backlash Blues, where he said, the world is big and round. Going to college affords you an opportunity not only to learn and grow within the career field that you are passionate about, but it also teaches you how to show up and navigate certain spaces. One thing that I've been so inspired by tonight is listening to the youngest of our alums talk about not only their passion and just wonderful mindset in terms of the career fields of their choice, but also that their intention of stepping into those career fields as leaders and wanting to be change agents and change makers, not only just for themselves, but their communities and the world around them. College affords you that opportunity to know what it feels like to take up space in spaces that sometimes, speaking directly to, students of our community and of the culture, you will be very surprised as you move throughout your life and in your growth and in your journey, how often people try to remind you or even teach you where you should be or how you should speak or what you should care about. Now, beyond just the academics and what you gain within your education, you learn what it means to be that leader in your community, to be that voice in a room that might try to quiet you or silence you. That is something that, in my opinion, is priceless. And college affords you all of those opportunities. So go. We need more people who are passionate in the work that they do, who have the letters behind their name to back up every word that they say.
Thank you so much. Dr. Green, is it important to go to college? Is it important to go to get higher education? Is it important to get certifications? Is it important for a kid today?
Absolutely, for all the reasons mentioned, but I'll add to the brother on the end spoke about the time he had at FAMU. College is fun, right? Don't miss out on that opportunity. It's usually a finite set of years for most folks, in the 4 to 6 year range, and most people don't get to do that in-person experience later in life. So it's one of those things that belongs to your late teens and early 20s. So go for it, have a good time, make good relationships. Some of you will meet your future spouses, your future best friends, mentors, friends, loved ones there. So go study hard, work hard, but have a good time at the same time.
Thank you, Dr. Green. Dr. Acosta, is it important to pursue higher education?
Absolutely. And for me, this is particularly for folks of the African diaspora. When you continue that journey to college, what you're doing is following in a rich tradition of the cultivation of the mind and the heart towards larger self-knowing and self-love, which really brings you closer to yourself. We always knew that education at its heart was about bringing one closer and closer and closer to their own divinity, to their own godliness, right? And so, and that brings you closer to yourself. And so when you take that journey, right, you are getting to know parts of yourself that would not have woken up otherwise. So you get to meet all these different parts of yourself and integrate them into the wholeness of who you are. And it is at that point where one is whole that you can be at peace in mind and heart, and then go out and be ready to contribute to society in the way that you were called to do before you came on this planet.
Thank you so much. Erica, you said earlier that you prepared yourself through certifications and those things. So tell us the importance. If college is not the path, then what is the alternative for students to make sure that they're going to be successful?
So I think it's very important, especially now. I graduated in 1992, and I said that I knew for me that I didn't want to be in college for a lengthy period of time, but learning is absolutely important. And there are different routes to success. So I don't, some people can make it without getting the extensive educations, others need it. And I think that even today, young people need it more than they did before, because just to get an interview, sometimes you have to have that degree, because it's not people looking at your initial application anymore. It's AI, it's
exactly.
machines. So you definitely need to go to college. It's very important. I am demanding that of my girls.
So they're gonna be doing that 4 to 6 years.
So they're gonna be doing. They're gonna get at least two.
Okay.
At least two. That's the household rule. But they're definitely on the right track. One of them already got a couple of degrees and still moving.
Well,
But,
great.
yeah. So,
Deshea, tell us the importance of furthering your education, of going to college, or be certified.
To just echo what everyone else said, you learn a lot about yourself in college. You get placed in a lot of situations, good, bad. You learn who your friends are, who your community is, who's helping you, who's fleeing when you were in trouble. You learn, all-nighters, walking up to the professor. You build a certain confidence. So that's what I got from college.
Dr. Perkins?
College is a learning experience. College is character building. College is diversity. College is independence. And by learning all of those things, you're equipping yourself to be of benefit to your community. If you have the opportunity to go to college, there's no excuse. You should. Monier Vivian Filer, she's the queen mother of our community. She often does a poem about bring that college home.
Yep.
And that's something that was always important to me in my education, because I had the opportunity to go, to learn, and to experience. It is now my duty to bring that college home. back to my community. So if you have that opportunity, there's so much to learn in that experience and growing as a young adult and really being able to immerse yourself in the course studies and everything that you are learning at that institution. And by the way, I didn't go to an HBCU, but I'm a firm believer with having two sisters that had that HBCU experience, that's something very vital to our community, something very important to our community, and that we should continue to push our youth and our students to go and have that experience to be able to bring that home.
All right. Justice, I know you're going to tell them the importance of getting a higher education.
Again, education in general, but particularly higher education, is something that was like very, very emphasized in my house at a young age. I remember my dad once told us, your options are either college and the military. You should probably pick college. So, I mean, college is incredibly important because I've only been here, less than 2 years in undergrad. And I ran into some of my classmates in Chick-fil-A the other day, of all places. I hadn't seen them in a while. And as I'm talking, because they're asking me, what are you majoring in? So I'm explaining, what I'm doing at UF, what I'm doing in MUN, and all these different areas. And they tell me, you seem different. And I'm like, in a good way? And they're like, in a good way. You seem more competent than you were. And so even in being in college for such a brief amount of time, I have discovered things. I've discovered good things about my community and the people around me. I've discovered bad things about the people around me, about the world and what's going on. Yet those bad things motivate me more to continue on my trek so that I can try and do my best to make them a bit better.
Kaden, you're the last person.
I would say that everything that I've heard everyone say, it's been incredible, and just even in my first semester, all of these are experiences that I'm even having for myself. And, just the caliber of people I've met, with still being in Gainesville, there's 50,000 students on the campus of University of Florida, and it's just so much personality, so much background, so much history, and, being able to talk to different people and just learn, about why they're so driven or why, they act this certain way. It's just so inspiring, and it's good to be around people who are different from yourself. So much to learn and to get from, different kinds of people. So it's been an incredible experience.
Awesome. That's a great note to end on. Let's give all of our panelists a round of applause. I want to thank our virtual panel, Dr. John McKnight, Dr. John Green, Dr. Melanie Moore Acosta. I see y'all waving. Elania Walton. Thank y'all so very, very much for taking out your busy schedules to come and to share back home. This is always going to be your home. And every chance we can get to bring you back home, we're going to bring you back home. So we thank you all so much for joining us in our virtual studio. Live in our Day Spring studio, I want to thank Caden Parker, Justice Alexander, Dr. Joni Perkins, Deshea Miles, and Erica Roberts Jackson for being here with us tonight. I think the people who are watching and the people here certainly captured something from you. Just look at all this brain power that we got around. And all these kids got one thing in common. They're all recipients of the Edna M. Hart Keeper of the Dream Scholarship Award, which we're now in our 38th year. And to date, we've given out $550,000 plus the money we just gave out the other night to Essence, and I don't see her here tonight. So we're moving right along and giving out money. I want to thank Dr. Marie Herring in her absence for allowing us to use Day Springs Missionary Baptist Church. I want to thank the church staff, Brother Perkins, thank you so much. Deacon Fox, thank you so very, very much for coming out and being with us every night. I want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight and being with us here. And this is something that our alumni students are going to be doing going forward. We're going to continue to give back. And I want to also tell you that they gave back to this year's recipient $4,500 to this year's recipient. And I'm still waiting on some more checks to make that $5,000. So if you all don't feel shy, you want to write another check, you can just go online, www.martinlutherkingcommission.org, and donate, make me get to that $5,000 that we're trying to get to. So with that, I want to recognize our board of directors who are here. Those who are still remaining, please stand and be recognized. Thank you so very, very much for coming out and being with us, all of our board of directors. And also, we want to remind you of some upcoming events. This coming Friday at 7 o'clock, we're going to have our Stephen P. Mickle Jazz Concert at the MLK Center. We encourage you to come out and be entertained by DR Band. So that's this coming Friday. Saturday night, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock is on Ramona Jackson, producer, director, and writer of Me, Myself, and God, a theatrical play that's going to be at the MLK Center and is free and open to the public. Monday, we have several events going on Monday, the national holiday, and that's a day on. It's not a day for you to take off. Starting at 11 o'clock, we're asking the community to come down to the Martin Luther King redesigned Memorial Gardens, and you're going to love it. It is a nice, nice space, and it's going to be a space that everyone's going to enjoy coming to. I want to thank the City of Gainesville for all of their work and partnering with us on that. And we have our parade starting at 12 o'clock. We're going to be lining up at the gardens and marching over to the King Center, where we have our final program, the National Holiday Celebration, featuring prime time. So that's our schedule for the rest of the week. And if you need calendar of events, we have them here. You can also visit us online at our website at www.martinlutherkingjrcommission.org. Click on calendar of events, and you'll see all the events that are going on in this community. So with that, we want to thank all of you for coming. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, we thank you very much for joining us for our Town Hall Symposium featuring our Edna M. Hart Keep With a Dream alumni students. Good night.